The Ashcraftoft family dinners weren't about food, they were monthly showcases of wealth, status, and thinly veiled one-upmanship. And tonight, in their palatial estate nestled just outside Napa Valley, the competition felt particularly suffocating. I slipped into my usual seat by the fireplace, quietly watching the parade of egos unfold. "Snagged a ranch in Jackson Hole," Preston announced, lazily twirling his wineglass. "Neighbors with the guy who bankrolls half of Silicon Valley." Cassandra waved a manicured hand, her clutch snapping open like punctuation. "We just closed on a vineyard in Tuscany, private path to the Med. You don't measure that in dollars." I sipped my iced tea and let them posture. If only they knew. "Nora," Aunt Evelyn called, her tone sharp enough to cut crystal. "You've barely said a word." Preston leaned forward, mock concern dripping from his smirk. "We were wondering about your living arrangement." And there it was. "What about it?" I asked, calmly setting my glass down. "That cramped little place in Portland," he said, half laughing. "Still renting?" "The one on Alder Street?" Cassandra chimed in with theatrical surprise. "Didn't realize adults still did that." I nearly choked on a laugh. Alder Street was my company's first real estate acquisition. While they pictured me pinching pennies in a shoebox, I held the deed. "I like the space," I said simply. "You're 35, Evelyn said with that practiced smile of condescension. "Time to grow up and invest in something real." "Real? Try a $1.8 billion portfolio of commercial towers, residential developments, and yes, Ashcraftoft Plaza itself, the very estate we were sitting in. I'd bought it 6 months ago through a private equity firm with a name none of them would recognize. I managed just fine," I said. Preston chuckled. "You can't even qualify for a mortgage." I leaned back and let the words roll off. Soon, they'd receive the lease renewal for Ashcraftoft Plaza and discover my name at the top of the letterhead. Dad finally looked up from his glass. "Not everyone's cut out for Preston's world. Nora's made her own choices." Evelyn gave a slow sigh, like I'd wasted my life by not landing a hedge fund husband or launching a skincare brand. They imagined I was barely surviving off commission, showing rental listings to broke grad students. What they didn't know was that I was West Pine Holdings, the anonymous firm, quietly acquiring property across the Pacific Northwest for the past decade. "Speaking of real estate," Cassandra said, eyes glinting, "did you hear about that mess on Alder Street? Some company bought up the whole block. They're tearing it all down." She added sweetly, "Looks like your little shoebox is doomed." I kept my face composed. I was the buyer, and demolition wasn't part of the plan. The complex was a hidden treasure with historical charm and long-term tenants I had every intention of protecting. "Really?" I said. "Must have missed that." "Of course you did," Preston sneered. "Deals like that are way out of your orbit." "If you get kicked out," Evelyn offered brightly, "there's always the guest house. We could help you find something respectable, or someone." "I'm content," I replied, "and so is my landlord." Cassandra let out a sharp laugh. "You can't stay small forever, darling." The Hale name used to mean something in this state. It still did, just not in the way they imagined. In industry circles, West Pine stood for integrity, for preserving neighborhoods, not paving them over, the opposite of my cousin's legacy-flavored vanity projects. Dad set his glass down with a heavy clink. "Actually, tonight's dinner isn't just about catching up," he said. "There's some business to discuss. The board's getting nervous about the new owner of Ashcraftoft Plaza," Dad said. I tilted my head, pretending interest. "West Pine Holdings bought a controlling stake 6 months ago. No one knows who they are. Possibly foreign money." Preston nodded like a seasoned expert. "Has to be. These billionaires love legacy properties, easy status." If only they knew the investor they feared was sitting 2 chairs away, wearing a thrifted cardigan and boots with worn-out soles. "Now they're asking questions," Dad continued, "especially about accounting, the kind we don't want audited." The room shifted. "Like how Preston dipped into the building's reserve fund for his Jackson Hole ranch," he said. "Or how Cassandra expensed Chanel bags as client relations." Aunt Evelyn clutched her pearls, literally. "I'm sure it's not serious. The Hale name still carries weight." Dad shook his head. "This West Pine person doesn't care about names. They've ordered a full-scale audit." The reaction was instant, cool confidence cracking behind glossy smiles. An audit wouldn't just reveal questionable bookkeeping, it would torch the entire operation. Maybe Nora could help, Cassandra piped up, suddenly sugary. She's in real estate, isn't she? Might know someone. And just like that, I was no longer a family embarrassment, I was a potential lifeline. I mostly work with small residential clients, I said, calm and practiced, nothing of this scale. Preston rolled his eyes. Of course, can't even help your own family. No one defended me, not even Dad. He was back to scrolling his phone like nothing had been said. What they didn't know was that I was about to help them in a way they'd never forget, just not how they hoped. Tomorrow morning, West Pine Holdings would issue a public statement. Effective immediately, Ashcraftoft Plaza will undergo comprehensive operational reform. No more shadow ledgers. No more family contracts. No more treating a business like a personal piggy bank. I scanned the room, oil paintings bought with repair funds, overpriced furniture from Cassandra's husband's firm, light fixtures with triple markup invoices. Anyway, I said, standing and brushing off my jeans. Cassandra sneered, off to show another walk-up with no dishwasher? I swung my weathered leather bag over my shoulder. Inside, legal filings, audit reports, renovation blueprints, documents worth more than anything in that room. Next time, maybe dress more like a Hale, Aunt Evelyn called. Appearances still matter, dear. I smiled. Don't worry, tomorrow, I'll look exactly like you expect. They just didn't realize I already was the one running the show. The next morning, I stood in my real office, an entire penthouse overlooking downtown Portland. My assistant, Isla, entered with a cappuccino. Board seated, your family got there early, trying to butter up the independents. I smiled faintly, picturing Preston's fake charm and Cassandra's desperate networking. Audit packets are ready, and the forensic team found even more than expected. She hesitated. Are you sure? Once this is public, there's no undoing it. They need to learn, I said, turning to the glass. Legacy isn't immunity, it's responsibility. Gone were the jeans. Today, I wore a navy Altazara suit. Clean lines, quiet power. Exactly the kind of outfit Aunt Evelyn dreamed I'd wear to marry a banker. Instead, I'd wear it to dismantle their empire. The announcement hits in 20 minutes, Isla said. Then let's begin, I replied, grabbing my briefcase. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. My family clustered at the far end, underdressed, unsettled, and clearly confused. Who are you? Preston barked. This is a closed meeting. I walked to the head of the table and placed my briefcase down. Nora Hale, I said evenly, founder and sole owner of West Pine Holdings. We own this building, and several others your family has mismanaged. The room froze. Evelyn paled. Cassandra's mouth opened and closed, speechless. Dad stared, hand frozen on his pen. Nora, he whispered. Good morning, I said. I opened the briefcase and slid audit folders across the table. Shall we review your financials? This is absurd, Preston stammered. You're just. What? I asked. The renter? The black sheep? The girl in thrifted clothes? Cassandra blinked. You show apartments. I work, I said, and I built something real, with transparency, with purpose. The independent board members leaned forward as the proud Hale family began to unravel, one page at a time. These reports, I said, outline every inflated invoice, misappropriated fund, and falsified receipt. I slid one toward Preston. Would you like to explain the $2 million roof repair that paid for your mountain home? His face flushed crimson. Or Cassandra, I said, turning a page. Maybe you can walk us through how your husband's firm billed triple for basic plumbing? Aunt Evelyn clutched her pearls harder. You'd do this to your own family? You did it to yourselves. I'm just cleaning it up. Dad finally spoke, voice low. Nora, please, we can talk about this. No, I said. I watched you turn our legacy into a personal ATM, while you mocked my modest life. I was building something bigger, something honorable. But why lie? Cassandra asked, dazed. Why hide it? I didn't lie, I said. I lived below my means. You assumed wealth had to be loud. Preston squinted. The Alder Street place, you actually live there? I own it, I said, along with most of the block. And no, it's not getting bulldozed. It's being restored, with rent protections intact. Suddenly, phones began buzzing around the table. A board member glanced at his screen, reading aloud. West Pine Holdings CEO revealed, Nora Hale, estranged heir, controls a $2 billion real estate empire. And just like that, the room changed forever. She fumbled with her phone. Ranked among the top ethical developers, she muttered, scrolling. Historic preservation, tenant protections? Cassandra looked pale. This will destroy us. No, I said. Steady. This will save you, from yourselves. Starting today, Ashcraftoft Plaza operates transparently. No more shell games. No more backdoor deals. No more family handouts disguised as business. Preston tried to muster bravado. And if we don't comply? I smiled. Then these reports go straight to the IRS. I hear they love creative accounting. Silence. Cold. Heavy. Absolute. Dad finally spoke. What do you want? I met each gaze. I want you to remember what the Hale name used to stand for, before the greed, the lies. Great-grandfather didn't build to flaunt. He built to serve. I gathered my papers. You have two choices, I said, voice calm. Work with me to restore that legacy, or find somewhere else to live. I hear rentals in Lake Oswego are lovely this time of year. I turned. Nora, wait. Dad's voice caught me at the door. I was wrong about you. I paused. Yes, I said, you were. The fallout hit headlines like a scripted drama. The press loved the story, the hidden heiress who dismantled her family's empire in one meeting. Aunt Evelyn vanished from public life, resigned from all her boards. Cassandra's husband's firm collapsed weeks after the audit. And Preston, finally facing consequences for the first time in his life. But not everything turned bitter. Cassandra enrolled in a public university's real estate program. She volunteers now, at a transitional housing center. She told me it's the first time her work feels real. And Dad? He asked to learn, not to take back control, but to understand. For once, he wanted to know what I built, how I built it. 6 months later, I sat in my Alder Street apartment. Yes, I kept it, reviewing quarterly reports. Ashcraftoft Plaza was thriving. Stable leases, happy tenants. Small retailers on the ground floor were turning profits again. A knock interrupted. It was my mother, in jeans, no makeup, no mask. I got your invitation, she said, holding the card. The courtyard holiday party. I nodded. You don't have to come. It's not really your scene. She looked around the modest space. Maybe. I'm learning that scene isn't everything. She picked up a photo of me, aged 23, beaming beside my first real estate license. I never asked, she said, why real estate? Because I wanted to build something real, not buy it, not fake it, build it. She looked at me quietly. And now, you own more than any of us. I nodded, but control was never the goal. Purpose was. She met my eyes. Will you teach me? Come tonight, I said. Meet the families who've lived here for decades. Listen, that's where legacy begins. That night, lights twinkled across Portland. Ashcraftoft Plaza glowed in the distance, not a monument to excess, but a symbol of restoration. The Alder Street building buzzed with warmth, vintage brick, wood beams, shared laughter. My phone pinged with partnership offers, speaking requests, new acquisition deals. West Pine Holdings was hot now. But I kept my calendar human, my rhythm intentional. Because success wasn't about shining louder, it was about building something that lasted. A week later, at the Alder Street holiday party, I stood by the garden fountain. My family was here. Mom sat beside Mrs. Lopez, tenant for 38 years, nodding, listening. Preston helped string lights with Mr. Keller, a World War II vet and the building's longest-term resident. Cassandra stood near the cookie table, laughing with children, frosting sugar stars. They were learning that real wealth isn't about display. It's about what you protect, what you honor, what you give back. Dad joined me at the cocoa table. You know, he said, Your great-grandfather used to say buildings should shelter hearts, not just wallets. I smiled. I found his old ledgers. He wrote about protecting tenants, about dignity. We lost that. He looked at me, not with disappointment, with something closer to awe. You could have ruined us. That was never the point, I said, watching a little girl twirl beneath the fairy lights. I wanted to build something that would outlast me. Sometimes, the people they pity become the ones they learn from. And sometimes, the greatest triumph doesn't roar, it endures. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told to stay in your lane, maybe you see yourself in this story. I didn't set out to prove anyone wrong. I set out to build something real, rooted in values, built to last. If this story moved you, I'd love to hear yours. What are you building quietly? What legacy are you shaping, without permission? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's give credit to the quiet work, the long nights, the decisions no one clapped for. And if you're standing at the edge of your own moment, when the world expects nothing from you, don't fight for attention. Fight for impact. You don't need applause to begin. You need purpose, consistency, vision. The rest will follow. Subscribe to the channel. More stories are on the way. Stories of resilience, reinvention, redefining success. Because legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you create. And the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming exactly who they said you never could be. So stay with me. Let's build something that matters. Together.